Hello, I'm Joe Galvin, Chief Research Officer of Vistage Worldwide. Welcome to the Vistage Coaching Spotlight, a video series dedicated to exploring the challenges and opportunities facing CEOs and leaders around the globe. In each episode, we'll be talking to some of the world's best and brightest executive coaches, senior mentors who are in the trenches with business leaders every day, guiding them to make better decisions and become more effective leaders. Today, we're speaking with Thorsten Kolbinger. Thorsten's a Vistage chair located in Karlsruhe, Germany. Thorsten, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Thorsten, you've been a GM for over 20 years. You've been a Vistage member for 10 years. Tell me, what are some of the leadership lessons you've learned in your journey to become a Vistage chair?
Thanks, Joe. It's great being here with you today. I think it all comes down to really what you said, being on a journey and starting in one place and growing yourself, growing your company, and staying focused on really what's going to drive success, what's going to drive growth. And part of that mindset has been with me really based around enablement and coaching. I spent over 15 years building 2 leadership teams. And my focus has always been on how do I enable those teams to perform best? How do I act as a coach so that at some point, if I exit the company, I'm gonna have something sustainable that's there and something successful.
Excellent. Well, you deal with and talk to CEOs on a daily basis in your part of the world. What are some of the issues? What are some of the leadership challenges? What are folks wrestling with right now?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that people are wrestling with at this stage in history, but I think one of the things that comes across constantly in all my discussions, whether it's with my members or other business leaders, is really attracting and retaining the right employees at all levels of the company. So it's not just about leadership team or leadership positions like it may have been in the past. It really is at all levels, and the reality is, employees have more choice than ever before. Knowledge workers have alternatives, and their loyalty to the company may not be as high as it was in the past.
You know, knowledge workers, along with skilled workers, hourly workers, this employee revolution is something that's sweeping the globe. In the UK, 78% of our members are increasing headcount. In the United States, 76% are increasing headcounts. And that raises other questions about, how do I hire? But more importantly, what's my retention strategy, right? With the big quit, the great resignation, where are people going? And more importantly, what are you doing to hold the people that you have?
I think the phrase "the Great Resignation" is really very fitting. In Europe, in Germany specifically, you're seeing a lot of the same trends. And when it comes to retaining your talent, I think it's important as a CEO, and I believe that needs to begin right at the top. It's not an HR topic. It's not a recruiting topic. It's a topic that really needs to be on the plate of the CEO of what makes your company unique to employees, and how do you consistently communicate that? How do you make employees or potential employees want to not just work for you, but stay with you? And that takes on a whole new dimension where you need to understand the drivers and the needs of employees, but you really need to listen to them, not just put lip service on it and do a survey to see what do employees value, but really understanding their challenges, their needs, their own dreams, where they want to go, and learning how to fit the company to meet the needs of those employees. Because the reality is, you need them, and if you can't retain them, then you're going to be limiting your growth.
Well, you speak to the power of culture, and especially now with the knowledge workers who can work remote, and employees having so many options, the importance of culture. What are you seeing really smart CEOs do? What are the good ones doing about bringing their culture to life inside their organization?
It's really has a lot to do with communication, empathy, understanding, and curiosity. Really getting to the bottom of what drives great organizations, what drives loyalty within companies. So why do some people stay and others in other companies leave? The culture of the company, it's really what's the root of everything. And in the past, when you had enough talent that was available, having a really solid culture and a culture that you can easily communicate and transfer the core ideas to others, may not have been as important as it is now. But having that strong culture, and I really can't repeat this often enough, being able to communicate that. Others need to be able to see what you are, why it is what you do that you're doing. And behind that is a lot that has a lot to do with purpose, because people have alternatives. People have a natural tendency to want to do something that's purpose driven, so that they understand also the purpose of your organization, how you add value to the world, and not just drive your bottom line. And I think that's an essential piece of culture that employees tend to look at more than the financial viability of a company.
Well, when you talk about the importance of culture, especially in retention, it's a very different world than it was in 2009 and 2010 following the Great Recession. The workers have option. There was a study just released a couple of weeks ago from MIT Sloan that said a toxic culture is why people leave. That relative to compensation and the other factors, it had a 10% impact on why people leave. It's the old adage, people don't leave companies, they leave bad bosses.
I believe that's more true than ever before, especially because, after the Great Recession, you probably had the situation that as a potential employee, you were up against 10 other employees that were trying to get one position. Well, that's reversed now. It's almost stood on its head. Now you've got one person with talent who has 10 available positions. So that means your leadership style needs to change, and a lot of that has to do with openness, empathy, a personal growth mindset, and really having authentic understanding and authentic conversations with your employees. I believe that employees notice it when you are authentic. They notice it when you truly want to understand what's driving them.
We asked a question: what is the most significant leadership challenge you're coming as you come into 2022? Hiring was the top of the list, retention was next, and then interestingly enough, development in terms of building the skills and capabilities of your people in place to improve their productivity, but also as a competitive advantage for retention and for attraction. And even more interesting is when we broke that apart, half of those responses were tied to leadership development. Why is it so important for leaders to evolve today? Why is that? What has fundamentally changed out there in the world that is forcing all of us to adapt?
It may sound a bit cliche, but the world is just getting faster. It's getting faster. It's changing faster. That means we don't have as much time to adjust to changes in the world as we did in the past. And that means that we can't control certain things. We don't have the time or the energy to be able to plan certain things. We need to be flexible. We need to be agile around our approach to employees and to leadership in general. And that really means getting down to an understanding and helping others to move forward with their own purpose.
We talk about the hiring, culture, retention, all that point. We know the economic challenges regarding inflation, regarding supply chain, the surge in energy prices, et cetera, et cetera. But if you try to look over the horizon, we still see a very positive economic environment for growth. And you've got a background in sales and marketing and dealing with customers. What should CEOs be thinking about as they try to connect now to a customer whose behavior has changed as well as theirs has?
Well, I think you shouldn't be acting any differently with your customers whose needs are changing as you would with your employees. Your customers are an asset just as your employees are. So, empathy and understanding is probably at the very top of that list as well. Understanding what are the problems your customers are having. How do you need to change your own offering, whether that's products or services, to meet your customers' needs now, whether those are consumers or whether you're in the B2B business. Even the B2B market is changing so rapidly, whether that's through supply chain disruptions, whether it's changing traits in the market, or something as mundane as a pandemic-driven demand or change in process that may or may not reverse itself.
Well, you brought up so many good comments. My last question is, we're seeing accelerated disruption, the amount of change in the short period of time that COVID has brought about. COVID is not going to go away. We're going to deal with it. The level of uncertainty in CEOs' minds is pretty high. What advice would you give them as you look ahead over the horizon to how they can better prepare themselves to deal with this constant and radical change?
I think one of my central values or drivers is really to stay curious, because curiosity drives so many other things. Curiosity drives understanding. Curiosity is information driven. Curiosity makes you ask questions that you may not have asked otherwise. And it's curiosity is the basis for a growth mindset, and I think those are really central, because you can't know what's around the corner. It's impossible to really make those predictions. None of us saw COVID coming, and we had to deal with it. So that means we need to be quicker on our feet, and that means being open to new things, being open to other viewpoints, to other perspectives, and understanding that you may not understand everything, and really questioning your own assumptions, and knowing, where do I need help, where do I need assistance, where do I need information, and that's a lot of that is just driven by curiosity.
Thorsten, thank you so much for your time today. It's been very enlightening, and we'll look forward to hearing from you again in the future to what you continue to learn from the small and mid-sized enterprise leaders that you work with. And I'd like to thank you for watching the Vistage Coaching Spotlight. If you enjoyed this talk, feel free to share it with others who might find it valuable. For more information and guidance on the top issues you're facing as a leader, visit our website, vistage.com. Go to the Vistage Research Center. That's where we share the results of our confidence index, the research work that we're doing, as well as keeping ahead of the issues and trends that are most important to leaders. Thank you very much. I'm Joe Galvin, Vistage Research.